welcome once again to Let's Talk Marriage. This is Pastor Larry coming to you this Wednesday afternoon with Let's Talk Marriage. All right. We're going to get right on into our program. If you woke up, I hope everyone's doing well. If you woke up this morning, you are doing well. All right, we're going to get right on into our program. On the program today, we're going to be talking about appreciating your spouses because a lot of times we tend to take our spouses for granted, the things that they do. And we should be telling them quite often how much we appreciate them. Not when you need something or want them to do something for you, but when they are doing their everyday things, because especially our women, our wives, they really do a lot, and us husbands need to learn to appreciate them. And I mentioned last week about attending church because a lot of women, like I mentioned last week, that a lot of times the women, when they go to church, the husbands don't go with them, and that's supporting your spouse when you go with them. Even if you, and again, like I had mentioned before, if you have a problem with the church, make sure you say something to her or have that conversation. And, for the most part, you should have had that before you walk down the aisle. But things happen after you get married. So if that comes up after you get married, make sure that you are supporting your spouse by attending church with her. And if you do not like the church that your spouse was raised in, or going to, find one that you like. And then that way, you both will be attending church together as a couple. And back to supporting our spouses. Make sure that we have their back on everything. Because a lot of times, us as men, we don't want to go that extra mile, but go that extra mile. Our spouse are really worth going that extra mile, and when they go that extra mile, that makes the marriage a lot easier. It makes the marriage a lot more enjoyable, because I always say marriage is not hard work; it's what we put into it and how we put into our marriage. Supporting your spouse is so very important because they need our support, and your husbands need your support as well. Excuse me. uh, Husbands need your support as well, so make sure you are supporting your husbands as well, because a lot of times we have husbands that work real hard, and then those that are retired, sometimes they work real hard too, doing things around the house, because that's the opportunity for them to do those things, because it was kind of hard when they were working a full-time job to get to do projects around the house. Make sure you appreciate them when they're doing this, and make sure your kids. We teach our kids to appreciate their parents, because man, nowadays we have so many children that don't support their parents or don't appreciate their parents. Make sure you appreciate your parents. And again, parents, husband, wives are not perfect. If you're looking for a perfect family or a perfect parent, you're not going to find one, because we all make mistakes. We all go through those growing pains and things of that nature. So we have to make sure that we are supporting each other. And when we support each other, it makes everything go a lot smoother. It makes the marriage, it makes the household goes a lot smoother when we are supporting each other. So it's a good thing that we just hang in there with our spouses and make sure we have their back. A lot of times, when you're supporting your spouse, sometimes the things might come up that you don't really want to do, but you do it anyway because you want to support your wife. The same thing with husbands. A lot of times they just go out of their way to do things to make us husbands comfortable. You know, I know my wife does. She goes out of her way to make sure that I'm comfortable with things, and you know, and again, you know, us as men and women as wives, they are not perfect. So don't be expecting a perfect husband. Don't be expecting, because everybody just everybody make mistakes, and everybody have some kind of things that needs to be worked on. So we're all a work in progress. And back to attending functions with your spouse. Make sure you try to limit the times your spouse go to functions by themselves. Make sure you attend functions with them. Make sure you attend functions with them. Oh, there's my alarm. Make sure you attend functions with them, and when you attend functions with them, that also make things a lot more enjoyable in your marriages. And you make sure your kids understand how hard mom and dad works to make sure that they have a comfortable life. And kids nowadays, they have it so much better than we did when we were coming up. As there was no such thing as us having, well, nobody had cell phones back then, but we didn't have cell phones. But 99% of the kids you run into under the age of 12 or 12 and up, or sometimes younger than that, they have a cell phone. There's nothing wrong with that because you need it. Uh, but, you know, things are being crazy as it is. But make sure that you appreciate that. Don't take advantage of your parents, you know. And we have so many other avenues, or your kids have so many other avenues that can cause division, strife in your family. And the same thing with marriages. There's so many distractions of things that can happen. So that's why you have to make sure that you're on one accord in your families. And because when you're on one accord in your families, it makes everything go smoother. And you know, life is too short to be having conflicts and disagreements. Try to keep the disagreements to a minimum. Agree to disagree. And when you're talking to your spouse, make sure you watch how you talk. Because that was something I had to learn. And, you know, because sometimes we might not think that we're have a certain tone in our voice, but you know sometimes we do, and you know especially when you're trying to get your point across. That's why I said when you're trying to get your point across, there's no sense in trying to out talk each other. That's why we had a segment on listening. It's very important to make sure that we are listening to our spouses. And spouses and wives, make sure you listen to your husbands when, especially when it comes to church, because sometimes they have like we had mentioned before, a legitimate reason why they don't like the church that you are attending. And sometimes we be in these churches so long because we grew up in there. Mama went to that church and daddy went to it. Maybe it's time to move on to, you know, to a different, or do something different. So make sure that we are supporting, and you know, and supporting our spouses means sometimes that you have to do things that it takes you out of your comfort zone. You know, because as men, we like to be in our comfort zone. Uh, you know, make sure we are washing dishes. You know, and men don't want to do that, things like that, doing laundry and stuff. Help our wives out. Help them out because again, they are under a lot of pressure. And sometimes on their jobs, they're having more pressure than we are, simply because a lot of times they're in higher positions. And when we're in higher positions too, as especially as minorities, sometimes you have hard times on your jobs, and when you come home, you want to make sure that you are comfortable coming home and talking about, you know, your day at work. And sometimes yeah, I know when I was in the working force, I'm retired now, of course, and enjoying it, by the way. But when I was in the workforce, you know, I used to leave work. I was one of those people that like to leave work at home. I didn't like coming home talking about work. I like to leave work at work. But some people like to, you know, come home and vent and, you know, make sure that we are listening to them when they're venting. And I know my wife, she likes to talk about, her day at work, and, and I enjoy listening to her. Because when I listen to it, I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, I'm so glad that I don't have to deal with the corporate world anymore. And it's such a relief. But she enjoys what she does. And, that's why I like to make sure that I support everything that she does. And, again, us men, listen, ladies, listen. Your husband is not perfect. So yeah, just make sure you remember that your husband's not perfect, and sometimes they do things, or we do things, or say things that that's why we have to think before we speak, and that's where listening come in at. And we've been talking about listening on some of our segments. We've been going over listening because people don't. It's hard for people to listen. When we're supporting our wives, we become good listeners, and when we become good listeners, we can go places or take the marriage to the next level. Because when you're in a marriage, it's again, it's not hard, but it is. You do have to do things. You have to work together, and it's not hard work. It's just work, and it's enjoyable. And I enjoy being married. We're coming up to our 35th year anniversary this month. In the month of April is our 35th year anniversary, and I have enjoyed every moment of it. Have I been perfect the whole time? No. Has she been perfect the whole time? No. But we make it work because we love each other, and 35 years together with the same person. Yes, and I enjoy being with my wife. She still makes me laugh. She still makes me think. She still challenges me, and it's a very productive. We have things we work on together. And this is Pastor Larry. I'm going to be signing off until we meet again with Let's Talk Marriage. All right, all right, all right.